Learning Center. I'll be introducing our guest speaker this afternoon. I'm sure everyone is trickling back from lunch and full now. So I'm going to read here. Ayanda is a technology executive with a career spanning over 2 decades, encompassing various roles both in business and technology domains. He is the GIS Partner Development Director in the Microsoft Africa Global Partner Solutions team. In his role, Ayanda leads business design briefings and architecture framework for partnership to optimize mutual success, advising partner leadership on building high-impact Microsoft partner practice. He has previously served as the Director for Data and AI, where he played a key role in empowering enterprise customers to realize their full potential by harnessing the immense power of their data assets. Ayanda's active commitment extends beyond the mere business pursuits, reflecting a genuine passion for his responsible, inclusive uses of AI. Can we please give him a round of applause as he makes his way to the stage?
Good afternoon, everybody. How's everybody doing? Was lunch good? Was it good? It seems like it made, people are sort of less engaged. The slot after lunch, sometimes we eat so good and we feel our stomach so good that we tend to be sleepy. So I hope you're not going to sleep on me. As we go through the slot. So thank you so much. Greetings to everybody. And thank you so much, I think, once again for the invitation. Those who were not here yesterday, we had a keynote yesterday and we unpacked a bit about AI, what it means, especially what it means from an industry perspective, what we see in the industry, and it was very good to see also, the other presenters, and also this morning, I think, the engagement around AI, and you'll see some of the conversations that took place this morning. They emanate in what I'm going to talk about today, in terms of how we can harness this power of AI to firstly, drive the employee preparation. The people that come out of universities are future employees, but also I think very importantly, they are future entrepreneurs. They're people that are really going to go into the industry and drive innovation and co-create within the ecosystem. And I think this is how we really going to change things and make sure that things go really in an accelerated manner. I'll skip the video. Don't worry about the video. Let's go back to the landing slide. So really, this morning, or this afternoon rather, talking about graduate employability. And this is something we see in the industry that is perhaps a disconnect between people coming out of the university system and people that are, in industry. I was chatting to somebody, yesterday, talking to people that I work with in retail. Retail is one of the industries that has been transformed significantly by the use of artificial intelligence. In its entire value chain, if you think about retail, think about the products on the shelf, right? Any store manager doesn't want empty shelves. But if you think about the value chain of an empty shelf, the product that needs to live where it is sourced, up until that product lands up in your cupboard at home. That is the entire value chain that people that manages value chain and supply chain and retailers have to grapple with. And they're now leveraging AI in order to do that work. And one of the things that come out the most when they onboard new commerce graduates, people that have gone and studied logistics, supply chain, they come out of universities, they always say, Ayanda, these kids arrive here as if the same way I arrived here 15 years ago. They are not coming in to show us how things work in the new world. Are they coming out of the system, with the same mindset, and curiosity becomes the differentiator between them, but their degree is not the differentiator. So it is about who are the curious ones who are going to learn a lot faster than others. And which therefore means that we need to bridge the gap between academia in terms of what we teach them and also the tools that they work with to get their job done and the tools that are necessary when they get to work in terms of how they're going to show up and how they're going to deliver. I made a simple example with retail, but you think about it in all sectors, that the tools that are used today are far more superior, and they need us to think at a very, very, very different level. And I thought, let me start in a very light-hearted way, kill also some of the conversations around, is AI going to take our jobs, right? And this one comes out of maybe a different field in terms of in the engineering field. Hey, ChatGPT, let's see you finishing this building, right? ChatGPT is not about to start building buildings anytime soon, right? So out there say engineers are still safe for now. But think about how AI is being leveraged to drive more secured sites in terms of when you are in a building site, right? I'll give you one quick example of one of the customers we work with. From a safety perspective, this could be in manufacturing, this could be anywhere. In many of these factories, you have CCTV cameras, or even on these particular sites. And what they're starting to do, and this has been happening for a few years now, they're using the feed that is coming from there in order to be able for AI to detect in that feed if somebody is not wearing a hard hat. Somebody is wearing inappropriate shoes. Somebody is not wearing reflective things if they're supposed to be working in an area that has reflecting things. Now, this is not a foreman chasing people out of a site. It's AI saying there's somebody on this level who's walking around the site who's not wearing what they're supposed to be wearing, right? It's now AI detecting those things, right? Driving safety in environments like this. So as much as we will still have people in many cases, but we're starting to use AI to be able to drive some of the other things such as safety, even in environments like this. And today I'm gonna take this again and start to move around a bit. And I want us to talk about, this was in my deck yesterday, I didn't quite get around to talking a little bit more about it. But especially responding to people in the room that are in the classroom with learners, people that are teaching, and people that are coaching learners, people that really play a role in teaching and learning specifically, as to how we can use Gen AI in order to enhance impact in the classroom. And one of the things it has to do with how we transition from data, vast amounts of data. When I talk about data, I also talk about the learning content, right? So think about the learning material and learning content and everything that you do. How do you begin to move from vast amount of content, both course content and the surrounding content, the value chain, in terms of surrounding your particular topic, to enabling your learners to converse with that data in natural language, and encouraging them to talk to that data, to ask it questions, to infer, to say, hey, please critique and compare this author and that author and let me know what you think. And how it enhances their ability to be in a position to have conversations with data. This is what we didn't have before. We couldn't talk to we could read, And we could read at scale. Some people will stay up all night and read, and they'll come back in the morning and tell you how many papers they read. But now we can, do even better. We can converse with that data in natural language, right? So this is to enhance learning. This is asking why. There is a study that they did when they released GPT 4.0 in the US. In the medical exam, there's actually a paper that was done by the university on it, where the board exam to be certified as a medical doctor prior to you being released into the industry, they got GPT 4.4 at that time to consume and learn the material that is in the course content. And then what they did is they then threw their questions that come out in terms of, it's in multiple choice form, right? The actual exam. And in GPT 3.5, which was the earlier version, it passed as an average doctor. The model did pass, but it was an average doctor, but it passed. GPT-4 was actually in the top 10%. And what they did, and I'm coming back to the learning part in terms of chatting with your data. Not only in those exams do they give you a scenario, hey, he's a 40-year-old male, cardiac arrest, got this, medical history, X, Y, and Z. And they give you 4 answers, most of it with the right things, and say which is the most right one, right? And it chose them. But then, where the learning moment comes, why are the other 3 wrong? Right? This is where now the learning begins to come in, right? I want you to start thinking about, when you think about chatting with your data, not only do you focus on the right things, you focus, why is this one wrong? And GPT-4 was able to unpack it in a manner that really exposed how matured the language model was, compared to a conventional doctor. So we now have an opportunity not only to learn from what is right, to learn from what is wrong, right? This is how you then learn more about it. Also, from insight to reasoning. Exactly what I've mentioned. You need to be in a position in your prompting and in engaging with these models to start thinking about reasoning, right? Coming back to what we're always speaking about, right? We hold the creative part. These models, I don't like saying it, but they're dumb. Right? It's math behind these particular models. We hold creativity. We, the bright people in the room, these models are not. So the more we interrogate them with reasoning, the more we learn from them, and the more our students will start to learn as well. And also moving from the mundane tasks in terms of doing mundane things, collecting information, and doing a lot of manual work in terms of trying to gather the right information, to focusing on creativity. You tell it to go fetch this. You now have an assistant in your learning journey. And AI becomes your assistant. You begin to go tell it to go fetch stuff, to sanitize through stuff. Give me this. Take out anything that is not peer-reviewed. Give me the ones that are peer-reviewed. Give me this. Give me this. And then you focus on the creative side, the problem you're trying to solve, rather than focusing on the mundane task. So that's one of the things. Also, from an information discovery perspective, it just accelerates things so much more. And I believe this is what needs to be encouraged in the classroom. The ability, to engage with information in a meaningful way, taking you along with it so that you can then focus on the problems that you're trying to solve rather than focus on information. And then, something that is massive in the industry right now, hyper-personalization. I did, make some examples with it, personalization is taking you and putting you in a category. Hyper-personalization, you are an individual. You're not in a category. You are Ayanda, and all the insights about you are purely yours. We don't put you in a particular band of LSM. We don't put you in a particular band of students. We don't put you in a particular band of income earners. You are an individual. That's what it's all about. It is contextual. And I believe it works in industry. There's no reason why it can't work with students. So that people are really treated as individuals in every essence of the word. So this is where we can really enhance, we can experiment here. We spoke earlier this morning about we can learn together. Right? Nobody, believe you me, we in the industry and we act like we've got it all figured out. We're figuring out with our customers. Right? You can figure it out with your students. Some of the things, especially we talk about very loosely hallucination. In some cases, in production environment, we still pick up a few things, right? And when we go and fix it and make sure that, it doesn't happen again. So don't be afraid to fail. Don't be afraid to get something wrong, but be very afraid not to get started. We need to get started. We're not going to get this right first time. And then when we look at employability of graduates, right, there are some really cool tools that would allow students to start playing around with career guidance as if they were sitting with a counselor. It helps them to sanitize information. It helps them, to unpack their thinking. And some of it is science-based, right? There's some people, I think, in the second one there, the second bullet point, that uses neuroscience-based games to assess cognitive traits, right? So now, very smart people in the psychology sector are starting to build models that begin to take, what we've known to be effective at working in psychology and gamify it in order to be able to come, to a particular conclusion in terms of what kind of advice it gives in terms of suitable career paths, right? So it uses real science. This is no longer just models behind it. It uses real science that can be backed up by a counselor, somebody who delivers this to a particular student. But now we're leveraging, the behavioral side of AI in order to accelerate that particular one. There are many of these that prepare students for interviews. And prepare students in terms of how they understand the organization. You leverage AI for that now. You don't just go to a website and hope that the website has the information. You really use an AI tool and you tell it the company. It sort of gives you a sense in terms of what you're talking about. I always ask students whenever we're taking in interns about experience, and some of them open, so tell me about your experience. And by experience, I don't mean they worked before. What did they do at university? Maybe they worked at the library. Maybe they were packing shelves at the grocery store. Maybe they did something at church. They all are always, baffled. It baffles me when somebody they come out and they've got this certificate and that's all they've done. Mommy and daddy have been taking care of everything else, right? And those things, I believe, play a key role in terms of the totality of a person, because we want the authentic person in the industry in order for the people that are going to come and make a lasting impact. So there are these tools. They're there. We need to allow students to play with them now in a safe environment. Maybe they're final year students, maybe they are senior students, they're busy doing masters and PhD research. How do they begin to work with these tools and leverage AI to get them, to be a bit more tech savvy around the careers that they want to pursue? I want to talk a bit about prompt engineering, right? When this came out, people talk about prompt engineering. I said, what nonsense is this? Why is it even called engineering, right? And the more I took interest in it, the more I understood that it was a skill, right? Go online, go on LinkedIn. There are some free courses on prompting. It will change your life, right? In terms of how to learn prompting and how prompting actually works. And and some of the things that you get better at when it comes to prompting. I'll show you, a sample of a prompt in terms of what you can do. A good prompt starts with a goal, right? It starts with what do you want to get out of what you're wanting to do, right? That becomes, a good prompt. And then very key, you need to set the scene, right? And talk about the context for your prompt, right? And contextualize it. So this one, you're telling it you must generate this because I'm going to do this with it. Right? So that it can get a bit of a sense in terms of what you're trying to do. And also tell it where to get it from, right? What data and what information to use. There's something that is built into those of you that have Copilot, your Office programs, you can ground the AI. And the process of grounding is giving it a document. You tell it that you're going to answer only from this, so it doesn't use the internet, right? Very, very critical when you are doing something at a university level to say, here is your course content. You ground it to that. So it doesn't go to the internet to go look for answers. It uses only the source that you have provided. If you want it, so in your grounding, you can do it. Say, hey, please, look outside for scholarly journals that perhaps contradict what I've grounded, right? So in an academic sense, then you want it to look outside, but very key. And then tell it the expectations, what you're expecting. And then the one that I've discovered way after I've been prompting for a while, especially when you're asking something complex, and then you say at the bottom, ask any questions that will get you to give me the best answer. You don't know what you don't know, right? So you've prompted, you've given it a goal, context, source, and everything. And then it starts to ask you questions. And then as you answer the question, it says, okay, now I've got everything. And then it starts to give you an answer. It is absolutely powerful, absolutely mind-blowing. Try it. And I can tell you now, if you try prompting, you will get better and better and better at prompting. I was talking to somebody about this. I'm spending... the couple of days I'm spending here, I saw my email boxes just piling and piling up, right? Previously, on my way home, I'll sit and I'll just go through my mailbox line by line, line by line. Right now, I do exactly this, right? I'm going to do a prompt probably tomorrow morning or tonight, depending if I get time. All I'm saying is, over the last 2 days, right? Can you please go through my Teams chats on all my emails and pick up anything where I need to respond to something, right? Prepare it in a list and also prioritize it for me, right? All it does is it goes through everything else. It begins to tell me all of these things. This person is looking for this. Does it have a deadline? It puts in the deadline and everything else. Now, instead of going through 200 emails that I've missed while being here, I now have 10 things to do. Right? The meetings I missed whilst I was here, I go out and say, hey, I missed this meeting and was my name mentioned in the meeting? Right? If yes, why? Or maybe I'm in a project, so it's not my name. I know that there was was this project discussed today in any of the meetings? Yes, it was. And then it starts to give you the link to that. We started recording meetings a while ago. Who wants to go and listen to 90 minutes of a meeting? Right? You go to that meeting and says, please recap all the important things. It gives you the 5 important things in the meeting, right? Also, then when there is something that you're interested in, you go and listen to only that thing. This is game-changing when it comes to personal productivity that you can, do as well. But the principles of prompting stays the same. When you're looking for something outside, when you're looking for something within the documentation that you're looking at. From me, I've been talking now about Gen AI specifically from a perspective of consumer, right? And the consumers of AI, right, is when we use AI to drive certain outcomes. Exactly what I just spoke about now, right? You're prompting and you're telling it what to do, and it comes and tells you what you want out of it. You can even use it like in numbers now, like what these Excel files, and you just tell it, can you just tell me what is this, right? I know people, for example, who don't come from commerce, who are perhaps engineers. They look at a financial statement and look at an income statement and says, can you just tell me what is this income statement, talking to me, right? People don't know, all of the accounting terms, and it begins to summarize and it gives it to you. So we are consumers. So we consume the content that comes out in order to be better at what we do. But this is where I believe we should be going as a society, to co-innovate around AI. Most of the models have been built, they are there, right? They need us to be able to create more around it so that we can then, begin to do more. This is where I believe our economy will benefit the most, right? Think of it this way. We talk about ChatGPT a lot here. ChatGPT comes from a company called OpenAI, right? The OpenAI organization are the people that kind of made large language models mainstream, right, at scale. They've been there, but it blew up, right, when they launched what is called ChatGPT. What happened around it, right? People started innovating. People started creating finance GPT, right? They're using the core language model, whether it's 3.5 table or 4 or 4.0, they're large language models. But because they are people that have a particular skill in finance, they are now leveraging that in order to be able to drive value. They built a company that leverages OpenAI as ChatGPT as an API for them to solve a problem. That's now innovating an ecosystem around it. Some of these image generation, services we use like Midjourney and others, even DALL-E, our own one, they also use the large language model in the back end. So they've built an organization that generates image and videos outside of the large language model, but leveraging the large language model. I believe if we miss it, if we don't produce, if we consume, we will miss the boat when it comes to AI. We need to foster a culture of innovation within our students so that the students know that, yes, we can leverage AI to be effective, but how do we start to think about how we can monetize this so that we don't have to close down factories here, right? Because we are consumers, because we're not building things that are going to keep us employable, right? So personal productivity, 10 out of 10. I use it every day. But I think we're missing the point if we don't drive it, beyond that, because the challenges that we have, especially in Africa, are unique to us. We need to solve them. The financial inclusion or exclusion, if I may put it that way, it needs to be solved by us. And this is how we can lever AI in order to be able to solve it, right? We know the challenges that we have in that respect. And it could be in driving economic growth. It could be in establishing new industries, new revenues. We have to innovate around it. Businesses right now are asking themselves, especially retailers, how do we go and have net new revenues without opening a new store, right? How do we begin to make more money from Ayanda? That's effectively what it is. Without, popping up, another new Ayanda popping up in the economy, because there's no jobs, right? As people are losing jobs, the companies are losing income. But how do they then begin to get more out of the existing base? Right? So this is where then this is where innovation comes in. This is where we don't start thinking like consumers. We start to think a lot more like people that are looking for problems to solve and leveraging technology as a lever to solve those particular problems. Let not those problems be solved by tools that come from outside, and then we come and consume the tools because the tools have solved the problem. So I believe we need to spend more time in terms of fostering creativity and fostering partnerships that lead us to be in a position that we can be in a position to innovate. And I think teaching and learning is the fertile ground for young people to start thinking like innovators and stop thinking like consumers. To start thinking like entrepreneurs and not stop thinking like, I want to be an Ayanda, I want to tell people I've been working in IT for 21 years. No, the kids of today needs to come out and ready to be entrepreneurial, right? And take out the fear that enslaved many of us who've stayed in corporates, for longer perhaps maybe than we should have. But how do we begin to instill that innovation culture when we are introducing them to these things and start to think about what can you do better? Show them a tool and says, how would you do this particular one better? And when I talk to, we have something we call Microsoft for Startups, where we incubate ideas from infancy all the way up until it goes mainstream. How do we invest in there? I know some universities around the country are doing it. Incubation in terms of bringing back ideas. But we need to, in the era of AI, even more important for us to be able to do that. And we can't do that without collaboration, without us coming together to ensure that we drive collaboration and orchestrating for mutual success. And I think this is very, very, very important. So let's use these large language models. Let's get faster, let's get more creative. But above all, if anything you're going to take out of this conversation now, let's start asking ourselves, how do we innovate around AI? How do we build our own? How do we reuse what is out there? How do we tap into an API in order to solve a particular problem? Because I believe that is what is going to lead us to better economic outcomes, to better in terms of innovation for growth, also to build the skills that these international companies that invested here would want to remain invested in South Africa, simply because we have the innovative thinking, we have the innovative skills that would allow them to keep the production here or keep assemblies here and also keep the entire value chain of what they are trying to achieve here. Consumer mentality, we saw it in minerals, it didn't get us anywhere. We still haven't solved it today, right? We talk about minerals that come out of the ground in Africa, having to leave our shores in order to be turned into value elsewhere. With AI, we have a unique opportunity to foster a culture of creative thinking and innovation that we stop being consumers and start to being people that generate ideas around this. Thank you very much.
Thank you once again for that insightful presentation. I think for me, two things stood out in his presentation. Was that one of the things is that how is that students 15 years later are coming out of our institutions with nothing to add in the corporate world. And I started to think, because I'm in academia, to think, is it maybe speaking to how teaching and learning and how we're doing assessments, etc. And another thing that you spoke about was how do we create students that are innovative, that are not just coming out there just to look for employability, but thinking outside the box. So that was very interesting, and I think it's a light bulb moment also for us to start thinking deeper. So I'll be facilitating the questions and answers. Can I have hands or volunteers for questions and answers? Okay, they have one question here. I'll take three at a time, sorry. Okay. I'll take three at a time, I think. Yeah.
Good afternoon. Thank you so much for the presentation. My question is based on the issue of innovating as Africans. I'm asking on the basis of the possibilities of doing so, as to say, if we do innovate as Africans, how do we sell it maybe globally to other countries? Because if we innovate, we need funding, and if we get funding from outside, how is it possible to sell it outside? Because again, when you innovate, it mustn't just be as if it's just maybe non-profit organizations, because we must be able to generate some income that will enable people who are innovative, because they can be innovative and yet it brings nothing to them. So my question is based on that. Thank you.
Thank you. Question 2. Is there anyone else? Okay, I'll let him answer. Maybe someone will have one after he's answered.
Thank you so much. I think very, very good one. I'll make a reference to a story. There's a company called Legal Interact. What they did with the advent of ChatGPT, they built, and its legal people came together, they built a large language model-enabled system to manage contracts. Right? This is now pure contract management. And think of it this way, right? What they did. So they go to an organization, to a bank, and bank has got all of these leases and all of these contracts, thousands and thousands of documents that are sitting in a repository as PDFs. And they enable them to do pretty much what we do here, but they do plug in a lot of their native stuff as being legal and contracts management people, saying, can you please give me, in natural language, the top 10 contracts that are expiring in the next 12 months, summarize them by our legal liability in those contracts, and do X, Y, and Z. And you could make it what you want, right? It's using a large language model, but it's solving a problem probably every contracts manager in the country, especially if you're working with such large volume of contracts, are able to do. Can you see that it is a large language model in the back end that is doing the work, but they have infused their IP, being legal, being contracts management people. They've built a lot around it, but they've done that. The reason why I single out them as well is the fact that many of these global companies, here, software is now consumed as a service in most cases. We took them and we solved a few problems that we saw in the country with them. We're now taking them global, right? This is now access to market. There are some incubation, startups across the country. Google has it, Microsoft has it, AWS have it, and even more, these private equity firms that they create environments where they can go and fetch these people. But I think the point of your question is the access to market piece. Yes, we've solved the problem, we've identified a problem, we can solve it, we have a customer that wants to solve the problem. How do we then scale, right? And the scaling part is in many cases for entrepreneurs the most difficult part. But I think if you're part of these startup communities, and there's a lot of them, I'm not sure in the Eastern, there's a lot of them in Joburg, where they go and have these pitches in terms of what the problem you're trying to solve, and then the access to market piece. Now that is homegrown here. It started here, solved a few problems here. It's now gone global. And it's leveraging AI, right? And yes, the examples of people that have gone global are far in between. Like the people that disrupted 911 in the US, the dispatching service for emergency services. It's actually a company from Cape Town. That was once a startup in incubation in Cape Town. They now have market share in automated dispatch, which is enabled by AI in the US, in the traditional 911 contact center. Company from right here in Cape Town that have been able to do that. And they've been able to do that simply because of access to market. If we don't invest in collaboration platforms, I think in my last slide at the bottom was creating networks. with organizations that have a global scale in order to be able to take these products and take them out at a global level. But it's going to take collaboration. It's going to take public-private partnerships. It's going to take universities being deliberate in connecting with the industry and say, hey, and come here, come and see what we do with our students who are solving this and that problem. And in some cases, we're solving some really, really good stuff with PhD students. And those don't get the kind of visibility that they should get maybe for funding to take place or even access to market. If we close the gap between academia and industry, we could find that we have existing people in the system that are solving problems that could potentially be worth a lot of money, when they when it gets commercialized and then put on an access to market platform that is global in nature. I believe it is the responsibility of academia to bring the industry closer and not wait for the industry to come knocking on the door and say, hey, can we work with you? Bring them, pull them, and ensure that you expose them to these grand ideas that we could then commercialize and monetize and at a global scale. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I think we'll take the second set of questions. We'll have one from Mrs. Mayapi, and then we have second one at the back there. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for the opportunity. Mine, Ayanda, would be in relation to the context, which is teaching and learning or education sector. So while you were talking and giving us examples in the business sector, of course, some of these examples that you were highlighting, we can take notes from those experiences, what businesses are doing in their business models. But I'm thinking of students that we get to admit into our institutions when it comes to career choice, career advising at schools. We know it's something that is a challenge. When they come into universities, many of them find themselves misplaced in terms of the careers they choose because of the lack of guidance, you name it. Yeah. Now, as institutions of higher learning, we sit with a problem or a challenge where it takes the students longer to complete their degrees, where now interventions has to be put in place to kind of support them. And many of them stand the risk of failing academically because of a decision, that was missed, whether they were still at high school, grade 11, grade 12, or whatever the case is. But the question lies with us when we take them in. What is it that we do with them? So, what is it that you can advise us with? Or young people out there, when they make choices of careers, is there an AI tool or are there AI tools that can assist? As we know, career guidance is something that is short-circuited in their journey in high school or lower grades, and then we get to struggle or to have to be creative in supporting them through their academic. Some of them fall by the wayside. They face potential academic exclusion because it's costing the university a lot of money to keep them on the system. Some of them take the university to court. You did hear what the VC was sharing. All I'm saying, if you talk about us thinking of ways to be innovative instead of be consumers, and I think this also goes strongly to young people who are sitting in this room, to come up with ways and means that could assist young people who are still at school, whether it's an online software maybe when they're in grade 10, they can first learn to know what they are. First of all, a personality, my strengths, your interests, and then you align it to a career. And then by the time you come to university, you know exactly in which field that you are supposed to be, instead of finding yourself misplaced and taking longer or dropping out. I don't know whether iyakunceda okanye ndithethe isiXhosa.
No,
Okay,
thank you.
enkosi.
Thank you, Sis Thandi.
All right.
We're going to take the last question due to time. I think there was one more question there.
Mine, I'll be straight to the point. You spoke about a career guidance. I'm just thinking in terms of students, since we lack like maybe a department that does mock interviews, whatever. So what's the name of the AI that can actually tell our student what is a cover letter, what constitutes a cover letter, what constitutes a CV, maybe practice psychometric tests with them, do mock interviews with them, not just take what you take from Indeed, actually tell them exactly, because we might lack the expertise of being a career guidance person. What's the name of the AI if it exists?
Jose, can you put up my thing? Is that okay? Thank you so much. I think the both questions are in and around the area of career guidance. In one of my slides, I did put up a. Let me go to it quickly. I mean, I feel for people at the universities, right? In terms of people that are misguided, right? I was once one of those people. After matric, high school was so hard for me that I did not want to study afterwards. I didn't apply anywhere. I was like, I'm done with studying. I'm done with school. That's how tough high school was. And then, it was January, and my parents asked me, "Hey, man, uzofunda aphi? Where are you going to study?" I was like, "Oh, but I told you guys I'm not going to study. I'm just going to, chill here at home." And I was chased out to say, no, go and find something to do. And then I, got into a taxi with a friend of mine who also was like me, who were tired of high school and didn't want to study. And then we ended up at the day, and this is now the late 90s, at the Port Elizabeth Technikon, before it became an MU. And I kind of knew that I want to be in technology. And then, we walked around and all the courses were full. You can imagine now, it's January, we're looking for a place, right? Everything is full. And then somebody said there's a course there called commercial administration. It's got a bit of IT, go and do it. And then we got there, and then they said, no, it's open. We said, oh, cool. We registered, went back home. My parents were very proud of me that I'm now, at the Technikon, I'm going to study. And then come time to pick up the course material, and then we started learning typing. I'm like, no. What are we doing? And then I didn't realize what it was, right? Simply because naive, didn't want to start. And then I realized that it's actually, an admin type of course. It has nothing to do with my aspirations. A year wasted. Didn't get it, by the way, didn't get a DP for any module, so didn't even get to write exam. And you can imagine the conversation with my parents at the end of the year. And they asked me, I said, I think their system is down, in terms of bringing back results. And then eventually I had to put it on the table that, hey, I wasted a year simply because I walked into something that I thought it was something else. And I can imagine, people coming through the system. I don't know what you can do before. You're going to need your colleagues on the other side in basic ed to be able to do more in terms of driving that. Perhaps even some of the proactiveness. I know some universities have proactive measures. They go to schools and they have people that go and educate. I think we need to educate more. We need, as we parents here, right? Or at least most of us, most people here, we need to be in a position to be looking next door and actually offering some help in terms of trying. I've got a 16-year-old who's in grade 10, and I'm trying to help him contextualize where he's going to go with his career. and I'm asking somebody, a stranger that I found on LinkedIn who's an actuary, I said, hey, can you please spend 30 minutes with my boy? And just explain to him what you do and what this thing means and everything else. I know he loves maths, and talk to him, maybe he's gonna enjoy it. And then I'm pinging somebody else, I'm bringing in a friend, and I've been asked as well, right? To say, and this boy wants to do data science, can you just talk to him? I think we're not doing enough as the people that have now progressed to put up our hands in the community to help people understand more and connect them. So I'm gonna put it back to us. What are we doing proactively for people not to go and waste a year at Port Elizabeth Technikon like I did, right? To engage them a lot more proactively in order to be able to close the gap, to reduce the burden at the universities of people that come in with no chance that they're gonna make it successfully within the prescribed period. So that's something that I believe we need to do. In terms of driving specific tooling, and these are tools that I picked up online. So there's many more in terms of what you find from driving preparation. Interviewing.io at the bottom of the screen here is the one that sort of uses AI-generated insights to take you through what could be potentially interview questions for your chosen fields, right? You give it an industry, you give it your graduate level and the level in which they are looking for what you're looking for, and then it starts to give you simulations. There's many more of them. You can actually ask ChatGPT, do a prompt, and say, ChatGPT, I want to be able to practice for interviews. Can you give me a couple of AI tools? What are the top 3 that are really popular right now that people are using them in order to prepare for that? It's going to give you that, right? And especially the one that sort of chooses career paths. You can even do the same thing. The one that, the metrics that I put in there is just one of many that will help you with that particular thought process to get there. So prompt, go to any of these language models, even the internet-based ones. They're good enough for you to be able to do and get that result back. And there's more than one way to skin a cat, so they say, right? So you're gonna find there's more of them. Do what works for you, and then practice and do everything you need to do. I think people that really make it are the people that really try hard, and they try harder, and they try even harder in order to get themselves to a point where somebody is willing to give them an opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you so much. On behalf of the University of Forte and the Teaching and Learning Center, this is a small token of appreciation for your time spent here. Thank you so much. I think we've learned a lot, and most of us are probably going to go on and see all of those websites that you've just suggested. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll now call on Ms. Ngcebetsha.